that was very nicely done, Peter. Now you got us 4 minutes before start time yet. I'd like to call this meeting of Winkler Council to order and acknowledge that the City of Winkler is located on Treaty 1 land, the home of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that have been made on these territories, but we acknowledge that harms and mistakes have happened in the past. But we dedicate ourselves to a future based on respect of all peoples, including our Indigenous communities, in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration, moving forward to a harmonious and prosperous future together. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of Council June 27th, 2023 be adopted. Mover?
Marvin.
Second.
Peter.
Any additions or changes to that? Not seeing any. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 13th, 2023 be adopted. Mover?
Don Fair.
Second.
Michael.
They're attached. You've had a chance to read them. Any questions on anything you see? All in favor? And we're carried. No correspondence to deal with today. Be it resolved that accounts payable in the amount of $1,768,246.21, as approved by the Finance Committee, be approved for payment. Mover.
Don Friesen.
Second.
I can help.
Any questions on anything you see there? The check register, as always, is attached for your review.
Got private dance lessons going on, Henry? There's a couple of dance checks there. I wonder.
No, that check would be much bigger if they were
Oh,
trying to
okay,
teach
okay.
me how to dance.
I just wanted to check just to see where.
All in favor? And that is carried. Moving into the fire and police, be it resolved that the Winkler Fire Department Committee minutes for the June 14th, 2023 meeting be adopted. Mover?
Don Fair.
Second.
Michael?
Any comments on those minutes, guys?
Just that for last fall's fall recruitment program update, there's 8 recruits that completed their level 1 firefighter training.
Excellent.
So we're on our way to having more skilled fire department members.
And that is fantastic to see. I notice the numbers are down from last year still, but still significant.
Exactly.
So it is good. Any additional thoughts? All in favor? And we're carried. Be it resolved that the Transportation and Utility Committee minutes for the June 8th, 2023 meeting be adopted. Mover.
Marvin?
Second.
Don Fair.
Anything there that we should be particularly aware of?
Well, no, I don't. I think like we're working on renewing or extending some of the contracts that we have with some of our suppliers. I think we're pretty happy with the recycling, waste, and composting program that we've got going. And so, as we move forward to see how we can get that one going, working on future for mowing. Had a bit of challenge early on in the season, working out ways that we can address those in the future. And then, of course, we're preparing to do the George Street Reservoir. It's kind of a major piece of work that we need to get it to service us really well into the future. So it's some of the main things that we've been dealing with.
Excellent. And I note too that the transportation study continues, and
Yeah,
it's really good to see some of that, and that we're getting some initial updates and looking for more information to try to make sure that whatever recommendations come forward and how we're going to evaluate those recommendations are going to set us up for best solution for the city of Winkler. Anything else to that? All in favor? That is carried. Moving then to the George Reservoir Phase 2 project that you just alluded to, Marvin. Be it resolved that council approve reallocating funds from the 2023 vac truck replacement, $706,000, to fund the additional project costs and complete Phase 2 of the George Street Reservoir rehabilitation. Mover.
Marvin?
Second.
Peter.
This item here, as noted in your notes, some of that is the rollover of funds last year went into the general reserve rather than being allocated towards this, so there's some dollars there. And the second piece, which is something we just cannot seem to get away from yet, is that the escalation of costs on projects continues. When we look at our notes and see that as little as, what was it, 2020, when we had these out, the entire project could have been done for what Phase 2 is now. But it is what it is. This is, as we heard from our Director of Public Works, this project is as important to us as our water treatment plant is. This allows us to be able to go with the size of plant that we have to continue to serve our entire community. We have to do it. It's painful, but this is one of those that absolutely must happen. I'm glad that we have a way forward. I'm glad that we're able to keep it on track and that we're able to reallocate some budget to make that happen. Any other comments or thoughts on it?
I guess the other thing is we're working together. We get about a third of our water from Pembina Valley Water Co-op.
Yes.
And we've been working together very well, or people at Public Works Department with Pembina Valley Co-op have a very good working relationship in the fact that when we're down there, we can get more water from them. As we have numerous times when Pembina Valley Water Co-op was in need of water, they can get extra water from us. So it's a really good way of ensuring redundancy. So
That's excellent.
Good relationship, working relationship is important for that.
Absolutely it is. No further questions. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving into planning, be it resolved that bylaw 2301-23 be given first reading. Mover?
Michael?
Second?
Don Friesen?
You see it attached there. As always, first reading puts it on the table, so if you've got questions now, great. If not, you'll have lots of opportunity to ask. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve subdivision number 4463-23-8298, subject to conditional use and variance approval, and subject to each owner obtaining occupancy permits from MSTW. Mover.
Don Fair?
Second.
Peter?
Any questions on that? Not seeing any. You will see, obviously, the note there for the July 11th hearing. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the MSTW Planning District minutes for the May 10th meeting and reports for May 2023 be received for information. Mover.
Don Fair?
Second.
Don Friesen?
Thank you, Don. Any comments there that you'd like us to be aware of, Don?
A lot of big projects are still happening. This is, as far as the commercial and multifamily has been going very strong in our region. The single family is pretty weak right now, but at least we're seeing houses, like multifamily houses being built, which we really need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was, like you said, really good to see that there's a lot of the larger projects, the permit values are there, the work is still happening.
Right.
Okay. Any other thoughts? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that Community Service Committee minutes for the June 13th meeting be adopted. Mover?
Peter?
Second?
I can help.
Thank you. Minutes are attached there. Any questions from what you see? Lots and lots of stuff continuing to happen. Planning continues to happen for our arena renovation as well. It's a pretty exciting time in that department right now.
Looks like the Whips are enjoying their new ball diamonds, so that's good
What
to
a
see.
beautiful facility. I had a chance to head down there Sunday afternoon and catch a game, and it's enjoyable.
Is there a lot of attendance there?
Actually, and I was actually at an Orioles game. The Whips were
Okay.
on the road, but I was surprised with the additional bleachers that were there. The number of lawn chairs and the bleachers had quite a few fans there. It was really good to see,
Good.
and a good spot. Obviously, it was a really good afternoon to watch ball too. Anything further? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the Regional Connections Board minutes for the June 6th, 2023 meeting and the reports for May 2023 be received for information. Mover?
Michael?
Second.
I can help.
Thank you. Any thoughts, Michael?
It is, yeah, busy, they've had a busy year there, locally as well as throughout the region. The report shows like the number of It was just over 1,000 to the region. Can't remember the exact number. I think it was almost a third of them to Winkler, and many of them settling here, I guess permanently, or at least till now. They've grown staff-wise, and just really exciting, really busy place, and lots of growth there.
That's good to see. Good to see, and providing a valuable service, which is
Yeah.
also very nice. Other questions? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding public hearings. Mover?
Peter?
Second?
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. Jody, we'll turn it to you.
Very good.
Hopefully
As
this
usual-
will be a little bit more exciting than some of the stuff you've heard so far.
As usual with our public hearings, we'll introduce them, and then if there's anyone from the public that wishes to speak to them, they may do so, directed towards the chair, and then same for council if they have any questions. So our first public hearing is going to be a combined public hearing for this proposed subdivision 4463-23-821, together with the rezoning bylaw 2306-23. So you have all the information there for the proposed subdivision. And then as well, the rezoning here is from CH commercial to 3 different zones. There's commercial general, public infrastructure, and R3, which is residential higher density zone. So for all of these, or for both of these, you have a report to council. The one report covers both of these applications, and our office has not received any objections to either of these applications.
Thank you, Jody. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak to these? Not seeing any. Council, any comments before we close the hearing?
To me, there's a lot of parking along the street. I don't know where we're gonna go with our snow, but I'm hoping that our staff has looked at that before. I get a nod from Scott, that's good.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, that's been addressed, thank
Yep.
you.
As usual, also, consulted with fire department and other agencies to make sure there's all the room that's needed for that as well.
Thank you, Jody. Additional questions? Be it resolved that public hearing for subdivision number 4463-23-8281 and bylaw 2306-23 be closed. Mover.
Peter?
Second.
Don, reason?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that subdivision number 4463-23-8281 be approved, subject to rezoning approval and a development agreement and final engineered plans that meet the City of Winkler's required design standards. Terms and conditions of the development agreement will be in accordance with the city's report to council. Mover?
Don Fair?
Second.
Marvin?
All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2306-23 rezone Diamond Drive be given second reading. Mover?
Don, reason?
Second.
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that bylaw 2306-23 be given third reading, subject to a subdivision number 4463-23-8281 approval and a development agreement and final engineered plans that meet the City of Winkler's required design standards. Terms and conditions of the development agreement will be in accordance with the city's report to council. Move, please.
Peter?
Second.
Don Fair?
Last call for questions. All in favor? And that is carried. Takes us to our next hearing, and Jody, I would like to declare a potential interest and step out of this meeting at this point. I will turn the chair over to Councillor Platt.
Okay, this conditional use application is under Winkler zoning bylaw 2271-21. Application number is CU 2023-006. The applicant is Alvin Thiessen on behalf of owners Harville Homes. The request is in order to allow permanent advertising signs in the CC, which is Commercial Central Zone. And here again, our office has not received any objections to this application.
Okay, is there somebody in the audience, do you want to speak to this at all? Okay, are there any questions or concerns from anybody? Anybody on council got questions, concerns? No? Okay, so then I'm looking for the resolution, be it resolved that the public hearing for conditional use number CU 2023-006 be closed.
Oh, Don Friesen?
Don?
Peter?
Peter? Okay. Any more comments, questions? Anybody opposed? Okay, and then move that carried. And then forward, then be it resolved that council approve conditional use number CU 2023-006, subject to a variance for any sponsorship frames installed in a masonry wall exceeding 360 square feet, representing 25% of the area of the wall to which sign is affixed. A mover and a seconder?
Michael?
Seconder?
Peter?
Peter? Okay, any discussions? Okay, those in favor? Opposed? Yeah, okay, that's all that, okay, so it's carried, I move that carried. Okay, we'll wait for the chair to come back, the mayor to come back.
Thank you, Marvin. That takes us to
14.4.
moving then to the next variation, Jody.
We have variation application 2023-010, and this is applicant David Entz with XOIO Architecture on behalf of owners Pinnacle Incorporated. The purpose here is in order to construct a multi-dwelling in the R3 residential higher density zone. The variance requested here is to reduce the required north front yard, Stanley Avenue, from 25 feet to 11.25 feet. And that relies on the future consolidation of lots, which are shown there, 3 separate lots on 3rd Street. Our office has not received any objections to this application. There are some notes to council, as well as a full report from Planning and Engineering Department.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jody. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to this? Council have any thoughts or questions? Be it resolved that public hearing for variation number VA 2023-010 be closed. Mover?
Don Friesen?
Second?
Marvin?
Questions? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that VA 2023-010 be approved, subject to the The construction and ongoing maintenance of a 6-foot and 4-foot tall solid fence to be located along the east and south property lines as shown on the applicant's site plan in accordance with zoning regulations. The true consolidation of lots 1 to 3, block 5, plan 244, MLTO, through registration of a plan survey. Mover.
Don Fair.
Second.
Peter?
Questions? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that public hearings be adjourned and regular council reconvene. Mover.
Michael?
Second.
Don Fair.
All in favor? Carried. That brings us to our other business. Legalization of electric utility vehicle presentation. I am looking forward to this one.
I'm pretty impressed with how fast you guys can rip through an agenda.
Oh, yeah.
It's, well done. You could give lessons to other organizations on that, so. My name's Ron Vanderwees. I have run a consulting firm here in Winkler, been here about 23 years. My major client is the Vehicle Technology Center in Winnipeg, and about the 5-minute mark, you're probably gonna ask yourself, well, why is he presenting to Winkler City Council? Just wait till the end. There's an ask there for Winkler
Absolutely.
City Council. So I've got a presentation here. Jody, if you could get to the next slide. So Manitoba's got a proud history of building big things on rubber wheels. And that sector actually kind of gets lost in economic reports because we report under 4 different North American industry codes. So government looks at a report. Aerospace is like a huge industry, but if you add all 4 NACE codes, we're actually bigger than aerospace.
Okay.
One of the really, really interesting things about our sector is that we have head offices all the way through to the design authority, to the production personnel, the support personnel, after sales support, all located here in Manitoba, whereas others like aerospace, the designs and the management are either in the United States or elsewhere, and we're just building parts here. So it's a huge part of the Manitoba economy because of all the different jobs we have. So here's some of the vehicles that are built here in Manitoba. If you go to the next slide, there's a few more. It's all built here in Manitoba. Go to the next slide, please. So if you total us all up, we're about $1.9 billion in exports out of the province of Manitoba annually, and about 13% of the total exports. 7,500 direct employees, being 12% of the manufacturing workforce. That's 1 in 8 employees that are working in manufacturing actually work building big things on rubber wheels. So we're a big part of it. This is an organically grown sector. Some of our companies, one in particular, has been in Manitoba for at least 100 years. New Flyer started in '67, Bueller Versatiles 70, I think it was the early 70s, but been around an awfully long time, and they're a real pillar of the economy. So we've grown this expertise in Manitoba to build heavy things on rubber wheels. In agricultural, mining equipment, trailers. One of the interesting things, if you go to the next slide, Jody, pardon me.
I think this is the it's
No,
not.
next one, please. Oh, no, that's good.
Yep.
Okay, so about the Vehicle Technology Center, sorry, I got ahead of myself. So I'm with the Vehicle Technology Center. We're a virtual corporation. The best way to think about us is we're eHarmony for the heavy vehicle and equipment manufacturers. So what I do is I connect with the majority of the manufacturers in the province, and I listen for common themes, things that our industry needs, that maybe not one company can afford, but maybe if we got together and found a funder, we could get some really, really good, interesting projects going on. And one of the lifeblood of our sector is actually our new product development. If we keep our products at the precipice of each of the technology sectors, like transit bus, highway bus, agricultural tractor, et cetera, we get premium dollars. We're not just a copy of somebody else's stuff. We can actually make some decent margins in our industry here in Manitoba and employ a lot of people doing it. So what we do, we're focused on a couple of different things. What the path to zero emissions looks like for heavy vehicles, and especially in ag. How are we going to get there? And that's where there's a lot of research going on, and we've got some companies getting together doing things. The other thing that we're looking at too is how digital manufacturing, robotics, actually apply to low volume manufacturing. Robotics work really, really well when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. We don't do the same thing over and over again, so we're trying to figure all this out collectively. And we bring in funders and we bring in academia to try to work on collaborative projects within our industry. And that's really what the VTC is we're a connection point for all these companies to try to better ourselves as a sector, to bring academia into what we do. So if you go to the next slide, please. Interestingly enough, this is a slide of all of the OEM heavy vehicle and equipment manufacturers in the province. Everything in yellow there is actually within about 35 kilometers of Winkler. And about half of the companies are actually outside of Winnipeg, which is kind of neat to see. The majority of the employees, obviously, because of the size of the companies, are in Winnipeg. But yeah, a big part of the rural economy, obviously. And the one company I'm going to focus on is Westward Industries. They're a company in Winnipeg that builds electric low-speed vehicles, LSVs they're called. They're federally regulated vehicles. They do seatbelt testing. They have to do seatbelt testing. They have glazing materials that have to meet standards. There's all kinds of standards that they have to meet. So this isn't just something that you would go and buy and use on a road. This is something that's an engineered product. They are allowed currently on the road in Quebec, BC, for pilot testing, and they're allowed full-time on the road in Alberta and Ontario, sort of the other way around. Quebec and BC have changed their Highway Traffic Act so that these things are allowed on the road. Alberta, Ontario have pilot legislation which allows a temporary use for up to 10 years so that municipalities can try these types of vehicles. And then you can figure out how to massage the regulations and bylaws around their use and that sort of thing. So the crime, maybe not a crime, but what would you call it? These guys, Westward, cannot sell their vehicles in Manitoba due to the way the Highway Traffic Act is currently put together. So if you go to the next slide, Jody. So here's just a little bit of a breakdown of these vehicles. They come with different bodies. They've got dump bodies. They've got cargo bodies. They go anywhere from 30 to 120 miles, all battery electric. So zero emissions, up to 3,000 pound GVWR. So these are not golf carts. These are actually legislated, safety approved, low speed vehicles. They don't have the same safety standards as full passenger automobiles and trucks, but they're awfully close. The problem is, though, is that they're federally regulated, but not Manitoba recognized. So here's some pictures of the different configurations of the vehicle. All of these things are built in Winnipeg. They build about 200 of them a year and exported to the United States. They're used at the Oakland Zoo, they're used in San Francisco, but they're not allowed to be used in Manitoba. Next one. So the question is, how do you change the Highway Traffic Act in Manitoba to allow Westward to sell their vehicles in the province? Changing the Highway Traffic Act is a big deal. It takes committee work, it takes the legislature to approve and those sorts of things. And if you go to the next slide here, go back one, Jody, if you could. Thanks. So an important piece of legislation was passed in June last year. It's Bill 21, which allows Manitoba Infrastructure, Highways and Infrastructure, to do pilot programs where a municipality can say, look, this is what we want to do. We want to work together with the manufacturer and with the municipality in order to put together a set of rules to be able to run a pilot test on certain kinds of vehicles. And this is a pathway that Westward Industry can actually sell their vehicles for use in Manitoba. Okay, so this was passed in June last year, and it allows changes to the Highway Traffic Act through a pilot testing program. So the act itself doesn't change, but through the pilot testing program, we can put together something that would help Westward Industries. So next, please. So what it does is it allows the authority for the province to develop regulations. Obviously, the province work together with the municipalities. Bylaws are required to allow the device on the road, obviously, so that would be part of the municipality. Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure are looking currently with a couple of municipalities on e-scooter and large quadricycle projects to figure out how they fit and to do pilot programs with those. So, and in conversation with the staff over at Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, they said that low-speed vehicles could be considered as a part of the pilot program. Next. So what do we need to do? Basically, before, it's a proposal in a way to Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, where we'd have to talk about signage requirements, if there's any public consultations or public communications that are required. If there's any limitations to operational and safety within an area, if you have huge hills or those kinds of things. In Ontario, for instance, you cannot use these vehicles on roads higher than 50 kilometers an hour, so that you don't have them on highways or those sorts of things. So there's set out standards already. There's 4 provinces that have gone through this already. So we're thinking that in order to make a presentation to Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, it should be just a copy of a lot of the stuff that's already out there.
Right.
Next one. So the next steps was to find a municipality, and that's why I'm here today, that would sponsor in addition to Bill 21 to allow pilot testing of low-speed vehicles. And basically, we together, if it's possible, would reach out to Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure with a proposal to them and work together to try to help Westward open up a market for Westward to sell their vehicles in Manitoba. So why approach Winkler City Council about a Winnipeg? Is you guys are a lot more approachable than the city of Winnipeg, right? So last slide, I think, there. So the ask of the City Council, would you guys be willing to work together with Westward as a partner to develop a regulation to allow federally regulated low-speed vehicles on the road? And would you consider presenting this to the Association of Manitoba Municipalities for some support there? That would obviously help their situation. So, yeah, in a way, I'm asking for Winkler City Council help to help the Winnipeg manufacturer, but they're all part of the brotherhood and sisterhood of heavy vehicle and equipment manufacturing here in the province. So, yeah, that's my presentation, and leave it with you to consider.
Thank you very much for that presentation. As I mentioned, I was looking forward to hearing it, and I appreciate that there. I'm wondering if council has any questions of Ron before we let him go.
Well, I keep thinking if we should work in golf carts right away, and, cause it would be the same, and Penoa is doing some sort of electric vehicle or golf cart.
I think there's,
Yeah, and this is exactly the path you take, is you would actually put together an application to MTI for a pilot program to say, look, we're gonna do this and we're gonna study it for 5 years. And we're gonna massage the municipal regulations around it, and we're gonna figure out how this works. And what that does is it also grants the province time to properly fold it into the Manitoba Traffic, or the Manitoba Highway Act.
right.
So how many units do you put on the road every year? Just ballparkish.
Like between New Flyer and MCI and.
No, I mean, these low
Westward.
speed.
I think it was 2.
Right now it's 0 in Manitoba, but the Westward make about 200 vehicles a year.
They make 200, that
Yeah.
goes to the other provinces.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my question. Yeah, thanks.
So have you heard anything about, I was talking to our local police a couple of weeks ago, and I was just talking about electric vehicles and such, and they were telling me that there is some kind of regulations that are coming up, like we were talking about e-bikes and scooters and that there is some kind of legislation coming out to, the way it sounded like more of a restriction.
That sounds an awful lot like what I heard from Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, is they're working on a pilot program for e-scooters and e-bikes.
Okay.
So they must be working with a municipality somewhere. We heard rumors, I've heard rumors of a couple of municipalities that they're working with, but chances are there is an area of the province that is investigating that. And through a couple of phone calls, we can probably figure out who it is, and if you're willing to, might be able to team up with that municipality and try to get to the resolution of that with a couple of municipalities instead of each one doing it on their own.
Okay.
So are you familiar with how it's done in other provinces, how the pilot projects are run in terms of, setting it up and something that the province would agree to?
It's a similar process where the municipal regulations, you would give the authority your first draft, if you will, of the municipal regulations, and then it's kind of like a back and forth process with them. They'll have suggestions, you change, you'll come back, they'll probably have some more suggestions and change. But then it would have to go through there is an approval process that this would have to go through before Westward would be allowed to put their vehicles on a road. So it's a bit of a process. It's not something that's gonna happen in 6 months. But, you know, to me, there's almost an injustice here that we've got a manufacturer in Manitoba that can sell their vehicles all over the United States and in half the provinces in Canada, and they can't sell it in their home province, right? So,
Indeed. Not seeing any further comments from council. Ron, thank you very much for this presentation. We will take this to our Transportation Committee. Either way, whether or not we feel that this is something we want to get behind or not, you will hear from us, I would suspect, within the next 60 days or so.
that's good. And if, you know, if your interest is a different path or a different type of vehicle through the bill, just feel free to get hold of me.
Excellent.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very much. And that takes us to the end of our agenda. Do we have any questions from media or public relevant to tonight's meeting of council? Have you got anything online? Not seeing anything? Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council be adjourned. Mover.
Michael?
Second?
Peter?
Peter. All in favor? Carried.